Discover 8 sinister and spine-chilling true horror stories from Alaska's haunted shadows. Sarah stared out at the stark Alaskan wilderness, trees looming like dark sentinels cloaked in whispering shadows. A chill crept into her bones as the sun dipped below the horizon, taking warmth and light with it. It was here, in this isolated town, that she hoped to rebuild her life after the shattering of her marriage. But as the darkness gathered, Sarah understood deep down that this place held secrets, dark secrets, waiting to be unearthed. The locals spoke of an ominous spirit that haunted broken families, a wailing banshee that roamed the forest, searching for souls to claim. Just yesterday, she had overheard a neighbor recounting a harrowing tale about a woman who went mad while searching for her lost children, her voice echoing eerily against the quiet air. Dread gnawed at Sarah's insides as she gathered her daughter Lily close. The last thing she wanted was for her precious child to fall victim to the chilling stories that seemed to wrap around them like a noose. Every night, when the wind howled outside, she would hear faint whispers, voices rising from the cracks of her childhood home. At first, Sarah dismissed it as her imagination, frayed by the stress of divorce and the burden of single motherhood. Yet, before long, each whisper became a nerve-wracking symphony, wrapping around her heart like icy fingers. The shadows seemed to dance, taking on life of their own. She could almost feel their cold breath against her neck, taunting her. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. A family heirloom, a necklace that had hung in the attic for decades, appeared on the kitchen table, exuding an unsettling allure that made Sarah's skin crawl. And Lily, sweet, innocent Lily, became drawn to a man in town, a charming local who never left her mind. His smile was inviting, but something flickered like a candle shadow in his eyes. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that beneath his exterior, darkness lurked. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Each night, the whispers grew louder. The townsfolk exchanged knowing glances when she spoke of her fears, their expressions chilling her to her core. They were as much a part of the legend as the haunting itself. One evening, Sarah stood at her window, watching as shadows flitted through the trees, shapes that twisted and morphed like phantoms in the night. The forest felt alive, and the trees seemed to sway with anticipation, whispering secrets to one another. Secrets Sarah was not meant to hear. As the moon lit the sky with an eerie glow, Sarah's resolve began to fracture. The stories that had danced around the community like a winter fire had become her reality. There was no escaping the truth. She was ensnared in the very folklore that had once seemed so distant. As Lily's eyes glimmered with intrigue and excitement whenever they mentioned the mysterious man, Sarah felt the dread curl tighter around her heart. This was not just her fight anymore. It was a battle for her daughter's soul. With each passing moment, she felt herself slip deeper into a horrifying revelation. The malevolent force was not merely a haunting, but a living darkness embedded in the town. As she prepared to unravel the tangled web of deceit, her heart raced in terror. The chilling knowledge that they may become just another ghost whispering tales of despair filled her with dread. Would she be able to protect her daughter from the shadows lurking in their hometown, or would they both become lost to the haunting legends of Alaska? The night wrapped around Sarah like a suffocating shroud, each breath she took a struggle against the weight of unseen eyes watching from the woods.
A chill settled deep in her bones as the whispers intensified, weaving through the cracks in the old house like a sinister breeze. Shadows danced just beyond the fringes of her vision, taunting her with their elusive movements. She clutched Lily closer, her small frame warm and innocent, a beacon in the gathering darkness. "Mommy, can we go outside?" Lily's voice, sweet and innocent, cut through the tension. But the forest was a living entity now, filled with promises of terror and madness. "Honey, it's late. We should stay indoors." Sarah's voice trembled, the last words she wanted to say hanging in the icy air between them. Lily pouted, her blue eyes wide and filled with a yearning for adventure mixed with confusion. "But I want to see him." A cold dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. The mysterious man who had become an obsession for Lily, no good could come from him. The very name echoed like a curse in her mind. "We don't know him, sweetheart. He's not safe." But even as she uttered those words, doubt crept into her heart. How well did she really know anyone in this town, especially under the cloak of night? Outside, the wind howled a mournful tune, creating a symphony of fear that seemed to circulate in the air. It was more than just the breeze. It felt as if the very elements were conspiring against them. Shadows crawled closer, fingers of darkness inching toward the windows, creating an unsettling sense of being surrounded. As she tried to distract Lily with stories, the girl's gaze drifted toward the windows. "He says he's waiting for me. He wants me to come play." The purity of her statement sent icy nails scratching at Sarah's spine. "Who says?" Lily smiled, an innocence that did not reach her eyes. "The man in the woods." Panic surged through Sarah. Every instinct screamed for her to lock the door, to pull the curtains tight, to create a fortress against the encroaching terror. "Lily, listen to me. We don't go playing outside at night, okay? It's dangerous. You have to promise me." But the words felt hollow, slipping between her fingers like grains of sand. Lily's cherubic face contorted softly into confusion, her innocence an echo of a horror Sarah had once longed to escape. The basement door creaked slightly, the sound echoing like a whisper from her darkest fears, beckoning her to uncover things meant to be buried. The necklace, her grandmother's heirloom, lay shimmering atop the table, a menacing reminder of the twisted legacy she'd inherited. It had belonged to the last woman who had walked these floors, consumed by madness. Was it possible that whatever had driven her to despair was awakening in Sarah's own bloodline? Just then, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness, and the whispers crescendoed, rising from the abyss surrounding them. "Mommy, I don't like this," Lily murmured, her voice cutting through the inky silence, a tremor of fear now wrapping itself around her small frame. Sarah shot up, the air thick with the scent of dread. "Stay close to me, Lily. Don't move." But the shadows thickened, and a low, eerie wail resonated from the forest, unlike anything she had heard before. The very walls of the house seemed to shudder in response, and Sarah's heart raced. "Who's there?" she called bravely, her voice a mere whisper against the snarling wind. The reply was immediate, a chorus of voices, echoing the old tales, each word laced with a creeping madness that invaded her mind. "Join us! Join us!" The house began to tremble, the very foundation vibrating with a sinister energy, as if it wanted to consume them both. In that moment, as fear clawed at her throat, Sarah realized she was not just fighting for her daughter. She was waging war against a darkness stretching back through generations, a force fierce enough to consume their very souls. But as the wailing continued, reaching a fever pitch, something caught her attention. A glimmering light in the depths of the shadowy woods, pulsating like a heartbeat. "Mommy, can we go now?" Lily's innocence shattered the moment, stirring a desperate urge in Sarah to flee. What if we go find him? The suggestion sent shivers down Sarah's spine. Would she protect her daughter by facing the ghostly legends that haunted them? Or would this journey only lead them further into the darkness? As the whispers grew maddeningly insistent, she faced a choice: to turn her back on the shadows or step bravely into the unknown, where truths lay hidden beneath layers of deceit and danger. "Lily," she whispered with a trembling voice, "we may need to find out who he really is." And as they prepared to confront the darkness outside, a single thought consumed Sarah. What waited for them in
the wilderness? The door creaked ominously as Sarah stepped outside, the chill immediately wrapping around her like icy fingers. The light flickered again, casting long, jagged shadows that danced across the yard, and now they looked almost alive. Each pulse seemed to challenge them, daring them to move closer to the swirling depths of the woods. "Mommy!" Lily tugged at her hand, her small voice a gentle push against Sarah's hesitation. "Wait, Lily," she said, forcing herself to breathe, to focus. The forest loomed before them, a mass of dark, tangled trees, whispering secrets that chilled her to the core. Dread gnawed at her, trying to pull her back into the safety of the house. But could she let fear dictate their actions? The whispers rose in a haunting crescendo, swirling around them like a thick fog, almost tangible. They echoed the same haunting call. "Join us. Join us." It was almost lyrical, a song of madness inviting her deeper into the night. "Look!" Lily pointed, her voice rising with a strange excitement. "There he is!" Sarah's heart went still, and her breath caught in her throat. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and gaunt, silhouetted against a flickering light. For a moment, everything faded, the house, the whispers, even her own fear. All she could see was the outline of the man, draped in darkness, that wretched invitation stretching across his lips. "Lily, stay by me," Sarah commanded, fear electrifying her veins. But her daughter seemed entranced, eyes wide with fascination, stepping forward as if the woods had a magnetic pull on her tiny frame. "Mommy, he wants to help us," Lily said, her voice a haunting echo of trust. "No!" Panic surged as Sarah grabbed her daughter's arm, pulling her back. The man's gaze bore into her, penetrating her resolve, and she felt dizzy in its wake. Every instinct screamed to run, to escape into the safety of the house. But it felt like a prison now, a cage with ghosts of its own. The man's mouth moved again, but words became lost in the wind, twisted and unnatural. Sarah could see his face wasn't just shadow, it was a distortion of humanity. Unearthly, wrong. Just then, the wind shifted, carrying a rancid smell that wrapped around her like a cloth soaked in dread. The song grew louder, more aggressive, urging them forward. "Mommy?" Lily's voice broke through the thrumming chaos, the innocence now tinged with confusion. "What if he's fun?" "Careful," Sarah snapped, desperation creeping into her tone. "We don't know what he wants." But the woods responded, branches creaking and groaning like a tortured beast awakening, and a deep tremor reverberated through the ground beneath their feet. The figure in the shadows beckoned, coaxing them with an otherworldly allure. Lily looked up at her mother, her blue eyes clouding with something darker, an echo of the forest itself. "Please, Mommy, let's go." The whispers transformed, calling not just to Sarah, but to something deeper within her, the bloodline that had once succumbed to madness in these very woods. She fought against it, against the swell of despair that tried to creep into her heart. "Lily, no, we can't." As if responding to her fear, the shadows thickened, pulling closer, whispering secrets just out of reach. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, but the glimmering light in the woods pulsed again, almost begging for them to draw nearer. An unmistakable sense of urgency coursed through her. "Let's go back,"
she rasped, desperation rising. But it was too late. The song from the shadows grew relentless, wrapping around them. In that moment of indecision, the door of the house quietly swung open behind them, looming like a gaping maw, heartless, waiting, ominous. Then, bursting from that stark opening, appeared a chilling silhouette, the figure of a woman, disheveled and lost, her hair wild in the wind. "Help us!" she began to wail, her eyes wide with terror. "Don't follow! Don't!" The man in the woods turned, laughter mingling with the wind, echoing into the night, almost a command. As the darkness surged forward, Sarah realized she was caught between two worlds, one calling out with the comfort of a lie, and the other steeped in the horror of truth. Lily turned to her. "Mommy, why don't we go play?" And as the weight of that innocent request crashed down on Sarah, she felt the ground shift beneath her feet, a warning rumble resonating deep within the earth. What awaited them in the depths of that darkness? Sarah closed her eyes, knowing they had to decide before the forest swallowed them whole. Would they run, or could they turn to face the unknown? A scream burst from Sarah's throat just as the figure of the woman faded into the dark, swallowed by the shadows that crept like hungry beasts around them. Time fractured, a split second caught between past and present, between safety and terror. Lily's innocent curiosity felt like a trigger, and the forest twisted in anticipation, a sinister audience absorbing their fear. "Lily, we need to go!" Her voice cracked, slicing through the thick air. The pull of the woods was stronger now, like a vortex drawing them closer to its maw, and she could practically feel the earth trembling under their uncertain feet. But Lily remained transfixed, her gaze locked on the silhouette of the man. It seemed to pulse with life, each flicker of light amongst the trees revealing more of his form. "Mommy, he's just lonely." "Don't you see? He's not who he seems." Panic coursed through Sarah, fueling her resolve. The air grew oppressive, thickening like fog rolling in, wrapping around them until she could hardly breathe. The laughter of the man echoed further into the woods, mocking, cruel. It was a sound that clawed at Sarah's insides, unearthed memories of stories just whispered around flickering campfires. A chill raced down her spine, and her instincts screamed for her to protect her child. "Mommy, please!" With a sudden jolt, Lily broke free of Sarah's grip, her little body darting toward the man. Desperation clawed at Sarah's heart, and she lunged, a primal instinct overriding all rationality. "Lily, no!" The ground seemed to pull at her, a sudden heaviness that dragged her down. But she fought it. A mother's strength surged through her, propelling her toward her daughter. She felt as if something from the depths of the forest was reaching out, trying to shove her back, but adrenaline drowned out the fear. Raw power surged within, and she lunged, clutching Lily's arm just as the shadows reached for her. The woods sighed, a displeased hiss that reverberated around them. They fell back together, stumbling onto the cold earth, which felt like it had turned against them, a treacherous surface beneath their feet. "No, we have to stay away," Sarah panted, struggling to hold her daughter close, suffocated by the noxious air that hung with despair. But Lily's eyes were glazed, glassy, as if under a spell. She tugged insistently, yearning to return to the man's comforting allure. "I want to go!" Lily's voice was insistent, yet tinged with something far darker, a yearning that felt alien to Sarah's ears. "He can make it fun! Please, Mommy!" A harsh wind whipped through the trees, snapping branches, as if the forest itself was protesting their defiance. Sarah closed her eyes against the rising tide of terror, honing in on the primal instinct to flee. "We have to go home, right now!" Just as she turned to flee, a low moan echoed up from the ground below, weaving through branches. Sarah felt it pulsing against her legs, intense and unsettling, as if the earth were alive and warning them. The man grinned widely now, teeth glimmering like daggers against the aura of the woods. And before Sarah could think, the shadows behind him lunged, swirling toward them in a wave. "Join us, join us," the whispers crescendoed, seeping into her mind, drenched in sorrow and longing. "Don't look, don't listen," Sarah shouted, grasping Lily tightly again, her heart racing as they sprinted back toward the house. But the door now seemed like a fading memory, a mirage that slipped further away, pushed by the horror of the woods that filled every corner of her vision. They ran, each footfall heavy with dread, the inviting shadows now a dark threat looming behind them. The man's voice grew louder, echoing through the trees, as if each step they took made him stronger, the air thickening with the weight of supernatural eyes watching their every move. Sarah pulled Lily close, the chill of the wind biting into her cheeks. Just a little further! She could almost taste the darkness reaching for them, and just as they felt a surge of hope, a glimpse of the house, everything went black. The light flickered one last time before plunging them into an abyss. What had they awakened in the woods? As the air went silent, the whispering cries began anew, angry and vengeful. The shadows shifted, and the man was no longer alone. Where would this terror lead them next? A heartbeat for Sarah to grasp that they were still breathing, still alive, though the darkness clung to them like a suffocating shroud. The cold ground beneath her was damp, seeping into her jeans, but she couldn't focus on that. She squinted through the void, desperate for the outline of their home, for the safety of walls that felt less like a nightmare. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was small, fractured by the pitch black as it danced around them. "I can't see. Hold my hand. Just hold on to me." Her voice quavered with urgency, though Sarah's heart was racing more from fear than certainty. It was as if the shadows were alive, stalking them, whispering in a language she couldn't understand. A shift, a murmur in the darkness, set her nerves alight. Something was moving nearby, slithering through the thick fog coating the ground. She yanked Lily closer, her throat dry. The air felt electric, every cell in her body pulsing with danger. They huddled together like prey trapped in the lion's den. The laughter echoed again, louder now, a twisted, rasping sound that slipped through the tentacles of shadow, swirling around them like a curtain closing in. "Come back to us! Come back!" "No!" Sarah cried, shaking her head against the seductive invitation that wove through her thoughts. "Not again! We have to get out!" She dragged her daughter across the ground, the thicket scratching at their skin. They stumbled forward, testing against the unseen force trying to capture them. With every frantic step, she felt an urge to stop and turn back, as though a powerful hand was tugging at her soul, promising comfort if she just surrendered. "Mommy, I want him," Lily whined, her childish voice laced with an unsettling longing. "He's waiting." "Lily, please, you don't understand." The words clawed at Sarah's throat. How could her sweet girl be drawn to such a dark force? The little fingers slipping from her grip were too much for Sarah to bear. "No!" she gasped, tightening her hold. A jolt of cold ran through her, as if a hand brushed against her shoulder, thick and clammy. "We're almost there, just a little more." Bright pinpricks of light flickered in the distance, drawing them closer. Was it the house? But the deeper they went, the more the woods turned hostile. The branches writhed like fingers, their darkened shapes clawing at Sarah as the ground heaved beneath her feet. "Mommy, I can't breathe," Lily cried, and panic surged through Sarah. "We have to go back. I want to go home." "No, no!" Sarah shook her head fiercely,
heart pounding against her ribs. "You are home, with me." As the final shred of light seemed to slip away, dread washed over them. The darkness thickened, heartbeats reverberating in an ominous rhythm around them. Then they saw it. A clearing, a glimpse of blood-red flowers blooming beneath a crumbling stone archway, ethereal and inviting. The laughter returned, soft and luring, wrapping around their senses, drawing them forward. "Do you see?" Lily whispered, her voice thick with wonder. "He wants us to play! Stay back!" Sarah screamed, feeling the darkness rippling through her, pushing a glacial chill through her veins. The night erupted with whispers, blending into a roar, promises of warmth and joy that sent shivers crawling down her spine. The plot shifted under her feet, a restless anxiety thriving in the air. Sarah clung to her daughter, feeling the tension coil deep within her. "This isn't a game, Lily. You're mine, and we're leaving." With one last push, she surged forward, pulling Lily close. But the moment they burst through the archway, the laughter and whispers transformed into a chilling silence. They stood at the entrance of the clearing, and she instinctively knew something was watching them from the shadows. "Come," a voice echoed, inviting and sinister, overwhelming her senses. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the darkness, not the man, not the beast, but an amalgamation of memories. Shadows twisted together in grotesque forms, faces familiar yet distorted, eyes glinting like polished stones. "Join us," they whispered as one. Fear gripped Sarah's heart, stronger than ever. She could feel the weight of their gaze, pulling her toward the center of the clearing, toward the approaching tide of shadows beckoning with 1,000 dark promises. "Lily, no matter what, don't let go." As the shadows closed in, a desperate surge swelled within. This wasn't just a nightmare anymore. It was something far more real. What would she have to sacrifice to save her child? And as the darkness engulfed them, the ground trembled once more, revealing what lay beneath the surface, a secret buried in the depths that was waiting for them. The ground erupted in a cacophony of whispers and laughter, a swirling mass of sound that clawed at Sarah's sanity. She felt it drag at her soul, moist tendrils of darkness curling around her thoughts. The faces formed from shadows danced on the edges of her vision, their mouths moving, whispering secrets meant only for her. A symphony of temptation that promised release and reunion. "Mommy," Lily's voice was a ghost of itself, trembling like a leaf in a storm. "I want to see. I want to play." "No, you don't understand." The words punched out from Sarah's throat, raw and desperate. Every part of her screamed to protect her child, yet a deeper part of her whispered back, soft and soothing. What if they could be happy? What if the shadows could bring back the laughter she had lost? As the pressure in the air grew thick, pounding like a distant drum, the mass of shadows began to coalesce. Eerie figures began to materialize, their forms jagged and unsettling, limbs distorted, yet familiar enough to instill a sense of longing. They bore faces she recognized, loved yet twisted. Friends, family, all trapped in this limbo of darkness, reaching out to her with pale, pleading hands. "Join us, Sarah," they said in unison, their voices drawing her in like a moth to a flame. A sudden rage ignited within her. "No!" she bellowed, an unyielding roar that sliced through the haze of temptation. She grasped Lily's arm tighter, and together they began to step back, retreating into the shadows, but also into the light that promised safety. But the figures loomed larger, moving with unnatural grace, dancing closer, their smiles twisted into grotesque shapes. "You can't escape us. You need us. Embrace the darkness." Sarah felt her heart pounding in her chest as she struggled to block their calls. The weight of the shadows pressed down, threatening to break her resolve.
Lily's small hand trembled in hers, and Sarah fought against the icy grip of fear clenching at her throat. "We don't need them, baby. Focus on me." "Mommy, I can't." Lily's eyes locked with Sarah's, filled with yearning, as if the shadows were blinding her to the dangers. Panic tumbled through Sarah. How could she protect her daughter from this darkness? Sarah took a deep breath, choosing between fight or flight. "Listen to me, Lily. We have to fight it. We can't let them take us." The strength of her voice surprised her. The figures faltered, momentarily wavering, a flicker of doubt passing through their faces. Sarah felt her own doubt wane slightly, but she could still sense the shadows swarming closer, the laughter erupting like a tide, hungry and all-consuming. Suddenly, a shriek shattered the silence. It was piercing, sharp, an echo of agony that resonated deep within. Sarah's heart dropped as she realized it wasn't a voice from the shadows, but something deeper, something trapped beneath the surface of this cursed ground. "What was that?" Lily gasped, staring wide-eyed. "I don't know," Sarah whispered, "but we need to go, now." She began to pull Lily towards the edge of the clearing, aware that whatever lay buried could unleash a terror far greater than they had faced. Yet as they turned to flee, the ground rumbled again, cracked spider-webbing beneath their feet. The earth shifted, heaving as something rose from the depths, something dark and ancient, something that had been waiting for them. "Come back, come to us," the shadows sang, their voices a seductive harmony blending with the chaos. "No!" Sarah dragged her daughter back, but the air shimmered with a malevolent force. The figure from earlier, a mix of familiar and alien, loomed ominously, its face shifting into something even more horrific. The laughter twisted into shrieks, clawing at their sanity. "Mama, I don't want to stay," Lily cried, and just as she turned to flee, the ground beneath them gave way. The two fell into a darkness thicker than before, the world collapsing around them. A vision flickered in front of Sarah, images of loss, of everything she had fought to protect. But then, just as suddenly, the descent stopped, the ground solidifying beneath them once more. "Lily!" Sarah cried, scrambling to pull her daughter closer, but the ground warped, darkness swirling like a tempest around them. And that's when she felt it, the unmistakable pull of something below, something whispering promises far more sinister than the shadows above. Sarah's heart raced as she looked toward the darkness creeping up from below, uncertainty gnawing at her mind. What would it take to survive this encounter? What truths would she face in the depths? But more terrifying was the question she couldn't shake. What if the sacrifice was not just hers to make? As an icy chill enveloped them both, the vision of a red flower bloomed in her mind, the same blood-red petals she'd seen earlier. Was this its origin? With a heavy heart, she knew they were running out of time, and one final desperate question clutched at her soul. Could she trust what waited below, or would it dim the last flickering light of hope? The ground trembled, a heartbeat throbbing beneath Sarah's feet. An inescapable heaviness pulled at her. The darkness inhaled deeply, drawing in their frightened breaths, exchanging fear for something less breathable, something foul that lingered in the air like smoke. "Mommy, I don't like it here," Lily whimpered, her voice quivering in the thick atmosphere. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tighter, her own pulse hammering against her chest. "Stay close." Panic slipped into her voice. They had to move, but where? All she could see was dark, an endless expanse of shadows that seemed to pulse and shift like a living thing. Would it engulf them again? "I want to go home." Lily's voice barely broke the suffocating silence, yet it stung Sarah harder than any cry for help. Home. Where was home now? As if hearing her thoughts, shadows flickered wider, swirling almost playfully, as if in mockery. Memories flashed through Sarah's mind, Lily's laughter at the park, bedtime stories, warm hugs. Those images split and warbled. They turned cruel, like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. Sarah? A voice, eerily familiar, drifted through the air, low and seductive. It was a call to comfort, twisted by time. Come to us. Panic surged again. She glanced around as the shadows began to morph, forming barely recognizable figures, their faces etched with sorrow and twisted longing. Friends lost, voices hovering just out of reach, beckoning her. Each shadow was a shadow of a choice she made, a decision gained, or a love lost. "Don't look, Lily, don't listen," she shouted, forcing her eyes back to her daughter. The resolute expression she wore masked a hurricane of despair. Sarah's instinct screamed that the only way out was to fight against this overwhelming tide. Yet that very thought tugged at her. What if it could help? What if staying meant they wouldn't have to feel the agonizing ache of loneliness? "No," she cried, shaking her head as if to physically shatter the suffocating grip of hope. Their skin crawled as laughter echoed, a cacophony that drowned her thoughts. Suddenly, the ground beneath her buckled violently. A deep growl reverberated up from below, deep and resonating, echoing through her bones. "Lily, run!" She yanked her daughter away, plunging them into the thick darkness. Ahead lay what felt like a never-ending gaping maw, waiting to swallow them whole. "Mommy," Lily stumbled, her small feet catching on unseen roots that snaked around her legs, pulling her.
No! The word tore from Sarah's throat, raw and primal. She lunged forward, grabbing Lily just as the shadows surged, a tidal wave brimming with crushing whispers and seductive calls. The air shimmered, the dark beneath them opening, an insatiable void awaiting their surrender. Another shriek echoed, a sound that vibrated with raw, gut-wrenching terror. It wasn't the shadows, it was something far worse, something hungry for what they carried within them. Memories. "Mommy, please, help!" Lily's cries pierced through Sarah's resolve. Clamping her eyes shut, Sarah steeled herself against the anguish. Without thinking, she hurled herself into the swirling chaos, arms wrapped protectively around Lily. The force of the pull intensified, the darkness snapping at their heels, hungry and desperate. "We're not leaving without a fight," she roared, a fierce determination igniting within her. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if stinging from her words. But in that moment of reprieve, another vision rushed into Sarah's mind. A garden, full of red flowers, smothering the ground in their vibrant bloom. Each petal, a memory, a joy, a shame. Could they return to that place? Was there a way back? With dread mingling with desperation, Sarah held on to a flicker of hope. She looked into Lily's eyes, both of them reflected in the blackness. Two souls entwined in a fight against despair. "Hold on tight, Lily!" As they hurtled deeper into the unknown, Sarah's heart pulsed with a relentless mixture of fear and devotion. What awaited them at the end of this chasm? And if they found a way back, what darkness would follow them home? In that pit of despair, with every illusion colliding against their presence, Sarah finally understood one thing. Light and shadow were far more entwined than she could ever realize. But what if that dark truth was something they could not escape, no matter how deeply they fell? The pull of the darkness tightened like a vice, dragging Sarah and Lily deeper into the restless void. The cold air froze her breath, turning it into fog that clung to her skin. A sickening scent of decay washed over them, punctuating the already suffocating atmosphere. "Mommy, I'm scared!" Lily's voice trembled, a thread of fear woven through her words. Sarah quickly tightened her grip, trying to anchor both of them against the sheer blackness swirling around them. "We'll get through this," she assured, though uncertainty gnawed at her. They had been plunged into the unknown, into a sinister maze where every direction led nowhere. The laughter of the shadows echoed behind, taunting them like cruel mockery. As they stumbled forward, Sarah's mind raced with fleeting images, faces beckoning, memories transforming into monstrous giants. Their eyes glinted like knives, each whispered word slashing through her resolve. "Leave her," a voice hissed, twisting around Sarah's consciousness. "Let her go." "No!" It burst from her throat, furious and defiant. She pressed forward, every shred of maternal instinct igniting a wildfire within her. The grotesque visions loomed larger, clawing at her sanity. But as she pushed through, a flicker of light appeared ahead, sparse and tremulous like a candle in the wind. "Look, Lily!" Sarah cried, urgency filling her lungs. She risked a glance, searching for hope amid the chaos. "We can reach it!" They hurried toward the light, but the shadows screamed, swirling violently as if orchestrating one last desperate ploy to pull them back. The air crackled with malice, whipping around them like a tempest. "Mommy, I can't breathe!" Lily gasped. Her small body strained against the suffocating dread. Just before the distance shrank, Sarah felt the earth tremble beneath them once more. Skulls rose from the darkness, grim faces swirling in agony, their eyes wide with endless despair. They called to Sarah, pleading in low, guttural tones. "Stay, don't leave." "Shut up!" she shouted back, panic clawing at her throat. "We're getting out." But something was shifting. The light, so close now, began to fade, swallowed by shadows that flickered like dying embers. Fear surged within her, telling her that even if they reached the light, it wouldn't be salvation. Then she noticed something glistening on the ground, a tiny rusted key. Without hesitation, she bent down, grasping it tightly. It felt warm against her skin, pulsating like a heartbeat against the dark. "Lily, look!" "What is it, Mommy?" her daughter said, eyes wide with a mix of wonder and fear. "It's a key. I don't know what it unlocks, but it's gotta be something." Before Sarah could finish, the shadows howled louder, rushing around them like a stampede. The darkness tightened its grip, threatening to crush them under its weight. "Run!" Sarah screamed, yanking Lily free from the roots that tried to consume her. They sprinted toward the fading light, the weight of the shadows chasing them with relentless fury. Just as Sarah felt the darkness clawing at her back, an idea sparked. "Hold the key, Lily. When we reach the light, we'll find out what it opens." "What if it's something bad?" Lily whispered, her innocence shielding her from the full terror of their situation. "Then we'll face it together, always together." With every ounce of strength, Sarah propelled them forward. The shimmering light grew, pulsing, flickering like a dying star, each pulse matching the frantic beat of her heart. What would be waiting on the other side? Was it salvation or tethered doom? As they broke through the threshold of light, Sarah felt a sharp tug on her soul, almost wrenching her back. The shadows lunged forward, desperate to reclaim what slipped away. "Mommy!" Lily screamed. Sarah twisted, clutching the key like a lifeline. And in that split second, Sarah realized they weren't just leaving the darkness, they might also be locking it away. But at what cost? As the world blurred and shifted like a bad dream, she knew that whatever lay beyond would not be the end. Not for them, not for the haunting shadows that pursued their souls relentlessly. What if unlocking that door opened more than just a way out? What horrors would come rushing in? There was only one way to find out. They emerged from the engulfing light into a dim, narrow corridor. The walls pulsated with a sickly green hue, casting eerie shadows that danced like wraiths. Sarah took a shuddering breath, her heart racing as she looked around. This was no refuge from darkness. They had stepped straight into its lair. "Mommy, where are we?" Lily whispered, clutching the key tightly. "I don't know," Sarah replied, scanning their surroundings.
The air was thick here, heavy with an unsettling energy that pressed down on them, making each breath a struggle. The corridor seemed endless, stretching both ways until it vanished into obscurity. The faint echo of footsteps sent a chill racing down Sarah's spine. They weren't alone. She tugged Lily closer, urgency surging through her. Was this the place the light had promised? Or was it merely a deeper realm of the malevolence they had just escaped? "Mommy," Lily's voice trembled again, more fragile now, as the oppressive atmosphere pressed in like a vice. "Stay close," Sarah whispered fiercely, her grip on Lily's shoulder tightening. "Keep the key ready, all right?" As they moved forward, the sound of whispering crept through the air, hissing unintelligible words that felt like cold fingers trailing along Sarah's skin. She bit her lip, willing herself not to look back, but morbid curiosity clawed at her mind. What if the shadows had followed them? What if they were lurking just beyond view, waiting for the moment they'd let their guard down? "Mommy," Lily squeaked when a sudden cold breeze swept past them, chilling Sarah to her bones. The faint echo of laughter twisted through the air, sending waves of dread crashing into her chest. "Keep moving," she urged, her voice a sharp whip, and they pressed onward, faster now, hearts thudding in unison. Suddenly, the corridor narrowed, the walls closing in like a trap. They stumbled into a small, circular room marked by a single ancient door. The wood was gnarled and dark, covered in cryptic symbols that made Sarah's skin crawl. Realization hit her hard. This had to be the door the key was meant for. "Do you think it will open?" Lily asked, peering at the door as if it glared back. I hope so." Sarah stood before it, feeling the pull of that rusted key in Lily's tiny hand. She wondered what would be on the other side, salvation or some greater horror. Before she could reach out, the air shifted violently. The whispers grew louder, morphing into tortured howls. "Leave the girl. Let her stay." The voices surged from the shadows that hungrily crept nearer, seeping out like smoke, and Sarah felt a primal fear grip her heart. "No," she exclaimed, with a fierce conviction that surprised even herself. "She's not yours." As if sensing Sarah's defiance, the shadows shrieked in protest, raging against the solidity of the world. The floor trembled, making the door shudder violently. "Unlock it!" Sarah cried, her eyes wild. "Lily, please, unlock it now." With shaking hands, Lily rushed forward, the key
Trembling in her grip. Time stretched, every second feeling like an eternity covered in thick dread. A sudden pulse of shadows shot forth, wrapping around Lily's ankles, pulling her down into the earth. "Lily, no!" Sarah lunged forward just as her daughter fell. In that moment, the key glinted, thrusting its warmth into the frigid air, and, against the rising chaos, Lily thrust it into the lock, turning it with trembling innocence. The door creaked open, revealing an abyss that beckoned with its whispers. "Quick, get inside," Sarah urged, pushing Lily ahead of her as the shadows screeched, desperate, angry. But as both of them tumbled through the doorway, the world beyond flickered, offering a glimpse of a terrible truth waiting to be uncovered. What would they find in this new realm? Was the door truly closed behind them, or was something still reaching, clawing for their escape? And as Sarah's heart pounded, she knew the darkest truth might be yet to come. The door closed behind them with a resonating thud, the sound echoing in the enclosed space, sealing them away from the darkness they had narrowly escaped. But the silence that followed wasn't comforting. It hummed with an uneasy energy, as if the air itself was waiting, expectant. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, whispering secrets that felt like a reliance on fear. "Where are we?" Lily asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, baby. Sarah scanned their surroundings. The room around them felt ancient, the stone walls rugged and cloaked in an eerie glow that illuminated nothing but the dust motes floating lazily through the air. An unsettling presence lingered, and as Sarah stepped forward cautiously, the ground beneath them shifted, causing her heart to leap into her throat. Fluorescent markings flickered to life on the walls, strange glyphs that pulsed like a heartbeat. They seemed to sway and writhe, as if alive, beckoning them further in. "Mommy, I don't like it," Lily whimpered, trying to edge closer to her mother. "Stay close," Sarah responded, her voice tense. There was an unsettling pull in the room, a sense that something was watching them, something ancient, hungry. As they moved deeper, the air thickened until it felt oppressive, like being underwater. Sarah took a deep breath, willing herself to remain calm for Lily's sake. "Sarah," the voice whispered from the shadows, a melody that slipped through the air, pulling at her heart. "You've brought her to us?" "No!" she shouted, clenching her fists, fighting the urge to succumb to the sweet call of those voices. "You can't have her!" Lily hid behind her, clutching her small hands to her chest, the innocence in her eyes replaced with fear, as more shadows crept into view, each one contorting into haunted shapes, memories swirling in their midst. "Leave us alone!" Sarah screamed, adrenaline pounding in her ears. She felt a rush of energy course through her veins, a protective mother's ferocity rising to combat the chilling despair. "Join us," they cooed, their voices rising in a crescendo of temptation, promising safety and a return to love, a love lost to the shadows. Each whisper licked at Sarah's sanity, memories flooding back of a time when her family was whole, laughter shared, home cherished. But the price was too steep. "No," she cried, defiance igniting a spark deep within. "I will not let you take her." She pulled Lily closer, shielding her, feeling the warmth of her small frame, anchoring her in this madness. The shadows surged forward, spears of darkness piercing the light around them, a cacophony of familiar voices enveloping her. "Join us, save the lost, embrace what you've forgotten." And then, in a moment of lucidity, Sarah remembered the key. The soft warmth of it lingered in her mind. "It's just a key. It has power." She turned to Lily. "We need to find a place to use it." A new determination surged through her. If there was a way to banish the shadows, they could still escape. She glanced around, breath hitching as she spotted a shimmering doorframe at the far end of the room, a hint of glimmering light spilling forth. "Let's go!" With renewed strength, they moved toward it, shoving fear aside, and the shadows roared in frustration, swirling angrily around them, clawing at their backs. "Mommy, they're coming!" Lily cried, glancing back with wide, terrified eyes. "Just keep running!" They dashed toward the light, Sarah's heart pounding louder than the whispers, each frantic step a declaration of their relentless will. Just as they reached the door, the shadows lunged, their presence thick and consuming. Sarah fumbled in her pocket for the key, fingers trembling as she held it out for Lily. "Turn it, baby!" Lily's hands were shaking, but she managed to insert the key into the lock. "I don't know what will happen." "Just turn it." With a shaky nod, Lily twisted the key. The door burst open with a blinding flash, the light enveloping them like a warm embrace. The shadows wailed, their cries dissolving into a tempest of rage and sorrow. As the light consumed them, Sarah felt the weight of the darkness dissipate, its cold grasp loosening for the first time since they'd entered. "We did it, Mommy!" Lily squealed, her laughter ringing like chimes in the air, pure and untainted. "Yes, we're free!"
But as they stepped through the threshold, the warmth of the light enveloped them, and Sarah knew they had not emerged unscathed. The remnants of dread lingered on her, whispering reminders of the darkness that still swirled beyond their reach. She vowed to protect Lily at all costs, knowing now that the fight was not over. They stood in their living room, the familiar comfort surrounding them, and yet Sarah felt a lingering heaviness in the air, a reminder that shadows were eternal, haunting memories lingering just out of sight. "Mommy," Lily's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Yes, sweetheart. Will they come back?" The question pierced through Sarah like a dagger. She knelt, pulling
Lily close, embracing her tightly. "They won't," she said firmly, though uncertainty crept at her heels. "Not if we stay strong." For now, they had survived. But Sarah knew the shadows were patient. They waited, silent guardians over secrets buried in the depths of time, and she understood that their battle was just beginning. The darkness might have been cast away for today, but she would remain vigilant, for they were now entangled in a dance with fate, one she intended to win for both of their sakes. And as the wind whispered against the home, weaving tales through the trees outside, Sarah resolved to stand between her daughter and the shadows, no matter the cost. This was their sanctuary, now and always. You need to subscribe now to find out what happens next. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show you care. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this heart-pounding story. Your support means everything.